This is the GroWTF podcast, a growth podcast of HOG Klaus-M. Hi, my name is Klaus-M and I'm head of growth of UserSnap, a user feedback platform that helps companies collect actionable customer and user feedback to build better, more successful products and services. We provide solutions for feedback around the product development lifecycle, from feature requests to NPS, and from visual bug tracking to user acceptance testing. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I launched my first website in 1994. In the last 20 plus years, I co-founded 3 companies within the MarTech industry. 2 of them got acquired, and in the third one, UserSnap, I'm currently working on as of today. And in this podcast, I want to talk about successes, but more about failures and learnings as a co-founder and head of growth. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the GroWTF podcast. This is the 3rd episode, and my name is Klaus-M. I'm the head of growth of UserSnap, and this time we're talking about how to get your pricing right. So, as you might know, our company is a B2B SaaS product, and it's cloud-based feedback platform for customer and user feedback. Pricing, as probably for most of you, is very important for us, as it might scale our annual revenue, hopefully. But when I looked back in time and I wanted to also analyze the pricing before I joined the company, which was 2 years ago, and the company is a little bit older, I found that there is not a lot of data based on the few price changes which were done. So our pricing, or my assumption here is not really data based, as probably many of the pricings of other products too, and very similar to our competitors. This is where it's easy to look at the websites of our competitors, see how they might price their product, and then try to find a cheaper price or a little bit different price, so it's not so easy for customers to compare. But you always have this feeling that, if you would just change this little thing on the pricing page, you might suddenly make the millions you are hoping for, and you could earn them easily. And it's just a little bit more time on the pricing. This was also our problem, and this is where our journey started. And I want to talk a little bit about our pricing journey from the last 2 years. So, as I said, when we started our investigation on how we can change our pricing and make it match it better to the value of our customers, which the customers get out of our product, there are several problems you're looking at. So first of all, very often you're hearing about competitors and potential customers telling you, yeah, I will probably choose the competitor because they're cheaper, and okay. So this is one problem. The other is, what exactly is the value your potential or your customers are getting out of the product, and how can you measure it? You want to change the pricing and have a leverage, but you don't want, to drop in your MRR or in your customer base. There are also psychological triggers when it comes to pricing, and then you don't know, should you use them? So pricing is kind of a labyrinth, and you're not sure if you really want to enter that. As I said, I looked back in time in the archive.org Wayback Engine, and looked at the pricing pages we had over the years. And what I found out is they were quite similar to what we have right now. So we never really changed it. It was in the beginning a little bit with a freemium, but this was a very short period. And probably had, as most companies have, or in the SaaS, when I'm talking most companies, I mean in the SaaS industry, we have around 4 plans. There are 3 plans which are self-service and 1 plan which is enterprise. And this makes it also hard to stand out for customers. So this is why we also wanted to investigate and learn what could we change and make it easier for customers on the one hand, but also more profitable for us. Yeah. So when it comes to pricing, I mentioned that before, it's kind of a little bit looking also for the holy grail, how to scale your MRR. So this is why you don't want to just, make one pricing page and then let it run. But this is, I think, a constant topic where you want to investigate and learn and experiment and find out how you can scale the MRR, because your product is changing, your company is changing, and so should your pricing. At least this is in my opinion. Yeah. So what we defined in 2 years ago was an objective of, get the pricing right. Okay, that's not so specific now, but which increases the MRR and the customer base. This brought us to our first step. And before I want to go into what we did as a first analysis to tackle that, we read through some reports in the industry about pricing, especially for SaaS companies. And not only Patrick Campbell from Price Intelligently, but also others like InvestP. They were talking about that when they did research, like most of the companies who worked on their pricing strategy regularly, they had a very positive result on their MRR. And this was one thing. And I have a statistic here, which also says that the average SaaS company spends just 6 hours determining their pricing strategy, which is, on the other hand, a very, very controversial step, because on the one hand, almost like all companies say, when they change their pricing regularly, it has a very positive effect on the results. On the other hand, companies don't spend a lot of time, obviously, on pricing. So this is something which is very interesting. And maybe, I can only say it from our side. From our side, it was probably always due to the fact that pricing is complex and it involves a lot of people. It involves the product, technical changes, and you always are afraid that you might hurt your existing customer base and might drop in MRR, lose customers, etc., or they might downgrade and so on. So this gave us a positive impact or positive push that obviously regular changes in your pricing will drive up your revenue. So back then we dug deeper into what kind of pricing are there, what kind of pricing strategies. And I want to just mention 5 main pricing strategies. So the one is cost plus pricing. So you have your costs and then you add up your profit you want to make. Or competitive pricing, which is often done. You look at the competitors and you go a little bit above if you want to become a premium brand, or below if you want to be the low cost brand. And then there is one pricing strategy, which is called value-based pricing. And I think this is the one where most SaaS companies want to aim for. So the value your customer gets, this is what they pay for. Yeah, it can be usage and so on. So there is more differentiation into that. But I think this is the one where you want to see your customers grow, also upsell later on, grow with your product and the usage and the value they get from your product. There are 2 others, which is price skimming and penetration pricing. Price skimming is when you start with a very high price and then you lower it later on when the market changes and or you go very cheap into a competitive existing market, and then you raise it when you can show that your product is worth it. But I think we will pretty much stick with value-based pricing here. There are kind of psychological triggers and approaches, which is kind of like, for example, fencing, an interesting approach on if you have different target audiences or target customers, and you want to have different value metrics, different pricing strategies, then you can put them, into a fence and offer, for example, for one audience. So we have three main target personas, and for all of them, we thought about, like, currently we have one generic pricing, and we know that it doesn't fit them all. Yeah. So this is an interesting approach, which you can, like, later on, I linked on my website, I linked a very cool pricing. It's almost like an educational training from Ulrich, and he's talking about fencing. I think it's better if he explains it and gives you a tip there, because I think he's a real expert on that. There is also like hooks, which is also used in sales. For example, if you're mentioning to a customer, would you pay more like 2,000 or 20,000? The customer, it's hard for them to talk below 2,000. So you already hooked some price in, and this is also what many pages do. When you set a price there, then it hooks in the mind of your customers where your pricing might be placed, which also makes it hard when you have a pricing on your website, which is for self-service, and then you want to upsell to enterprise, which is way higher. But they already looked at your website and they have to think, okay, why, when you're charging $149 per month, why do I pay 5,000? Yeah. This is a difficult, interesting topic. We are still working on that, how you can hook customers who need get more value, but they look at the cheap prices and think, why don't I get this price? Yeah, so there are other things which have to be looked at when it comes to pricing, and which we also like thought about when we tackled our pricing strategy, which is like, do you give a free trial, which we do? Do you give a freemium model, or have a freemium model where you offer a free forever plan, which we don't have, but we had it? Or do you remove all prices from the website because you want to go into the enterprise solutions? So these are all things you can talk and think about when it goes to pricing strategy. And I highly recommend to look also for some B2B pricing experts. There are a lot here, and I link some of them on my website. It's interesting to learn. But one thing I also learned in the last 2 years is, one problem I have is even if there is a lot of knowledge out there, your company and your pricing and your product is still special and unique. And this is why it's so hard that you cannot just take this, average pricing strategy. You have to sit down and think and try out and experiment. So this is at least my learning, that you might have some like general approaches which you can easily adopt, but when it goes to more specific problems, then you have to sit down and learn how it works for you, for your company, for your product, and for your customers. I want to mention one book which I read. To be honest, it didn't help me so much currently. It's Monetizing Innovation. But I think this is also because I'm already overwhelmed with a lot of information we gathered in the last 2 years. Maybe if you're a little bit newer to the topic, then it helps you more. They have quite cool questions for surveys. So Monetizing Innovation also tells you that you should build the product around the price, which is an interesting approach. But also sometimes, it's hard when your pricing is probably not the only task you're working on, or the only challenge you have in your company. So it is nice, but always hard, to change the general approach of your company if you just read a book. But still, I think there are valuable information in there. So I want to talk a bit about what we implemented in the last 2 years. So as I said, we started in a pricing, I would say, journey. It's not even a project. So we started with analyzing or by setting first a goal. And our business goal was that we want to have a pricing which attracts more customers. So one of our goals is to have more customers, and also to a certain extent scale in the enterprise level. So we have a self-service platform with a self-service pricing kind of credit card payment, but we also want to have the possibility to scale into an enterprise level. Another part of the goal was the value of our customers is to offer a pricing model that is affordable and easy to understand. Easy to understand is quite a challenge, I found out. I thought everything might be easy, but then I did some user research and gave me a new look on certain things and some other requirements, which like were it should work for all of our use cases. So we have for different target personas, we have different use cases. They all have a different value metrics. It should, of course, not decrease our current MRR, and it should be a strategic fit. What I mean by that is that we have some company strategies, and the pricing must also fit into that. So when we said that, then we did a very long analysis. There was a quite, I think the page takes several minutes to scroll through. And what we did is we first looked at, the strategic fit, also into certain competitors. How do they price? What are their value metrics? We collected certain hypotheses on, there is all the time someone comes up with, oh, if we just add this feature to this plan, then this would happen. So we collected quite some of them, and then we tried to find out which of them can help us in the future. We also defined pricing dimensions. So we wanted to figure out, what could be value metrics if you list for each product or in each target group. If you list all the features they are using, you will get quite a long list, and it's interesting to figure out, okay, what can be a value metrics? What can you scale over time? What brings the customer more value over time? And then you have a few points where you can dive into and figure out if this is helping your value-based pricing strategy. Of course, you also looked at the current customer structure and what they are using. What features are they using? This goes then into analytics to have a very clear or a very extensive analytics platform and figure out what features are used how often by whom. We also analyzed, okay, which plans are bought from whom and how much do they use what. And this came then to some model options. What can we do? And some scaling factors for each customer segment, which goes into the value metrics. So we did this long analysis, and this first step led to, in the first moment, it led to not so many changes. So we were stuck with our existing pricing, especially as we are in the transition from one, let's say we were in the QA market, and now we are transitioning to the CX market, or adding it to our as our main market, which brings the interesting problem of that you have two huge use cases which are priced or assumed from the customers. They are seen differently from what brings value. So this kind of brought us in the situation that in the first month we didn't do anything, but then we said, okay, we have to start somewhere. I think this is always, if you don't know how to start, do baby steps. So what we did, we had to first adapt our product, because the pricing, it doesn't work that you just change the pricing page. You have to also change the product, that it has the same flexibility. So this was our first problem, kind of. This took us quite some time. We had to change it to a different technological approach, and also migrated our payment then to Stripe to have more flexibility in the pricing and also the payment afterwards. And then we did last year, we did a little change which had a big effect. And this was our smallest plan. We moved it down to $9 per month. It was $29 before, and we just moved it down to $9. Why? Because our hypothesis was, if we onboard more customers, it's kind of an extended trial phase. So they just pay $9, and then they will, over time, they will get more value, and then they will increase in their subscription fee. And yeah, then this experiment ran for quite some time, and the interesting results were that our monthly new customer rate, so the new customers coming in, it doubled, because we unlocked a certain segment which was with 29, it was not was probably too expensive, or they didn't want to try it out for too long. And this unlocked and increased our customer base a lot. Yeah, but it came with the effect that our MRR growth rate slowed down a bit. This was something we had to tackle. Then we started, I think this is an approach you will hear quite often from me. So when we go into a new topic, after we gain some clarity on what we want to achieve, then we reach out to some experts. Yeah, we always try to learn first from already experienced people. You don't have to make all the mistakes on your own. So we reached out to a guy called Ulrich, and he talked to us, and we tried to learn how it works. But to be honest, he also proposed us, or he suggested us or gave us a proposal for a workshop, which we didn't do then, because in the first step we wanted to see what will happen when we sit down and think about that. So we spent more than 6 hours average time on the pricing strategy, which was mentioned before in the report. And so this is what we did at the beginning of this year. Yeah, we had a very cool workshop about the pricing, and we dug into the existing data we had, and yeah, we were aiming for value-based pricing and also fencing. And at the end, I think we had a very, very interesting and also it looked very promising pricing strategy, but it also meant that we had to change a lot. And this was a huge step of changing your pricing. And the result of that was that in the first step, we came to a total halt. So we went into a total stagnation. And I guess this was because then, after this huge brave step to change everything to value-based metric and remove maybe even feature steps, between plans, we realized that a huge step can also harm your customer base and your current MRR quite a lot. So one of our basic approaches in the company is, do little steps and iterate on them. Yeah? And this was not a little step, this was a huge step. And so I think this brought us into the stagnation. But then we restarted and we trained more like a constant experimentation attitude, I called it. Yeah, so an attitude for, let's have regular experiments, and build on them. Yeah, not changing everything in the first place, but go steps and be clear on what is your goal, what are your hypotheses, what you want to do, and then measure and learn. And this is what we did. So this is where we are, let's say, in the last month. We were in the last month and are still there. So what we did is we did a lot of customer and potential customer interviews and surveys. And we asked like potential customers from our target audience. We asked them about the pricing page. We let them, scroll through and give us feedback. Also, what similar products they bought and why, and what was the pricing, what are they willing to pay. And we are also in a lot of user research now on existing customers, see what are the main drivers for value for them, to understand the value metrics, understand what features are they using and for what, and also their, let's say, price points they are willing to pay for certain value. So you can test, and this is where the book helped me, the Monetizing Innovation, to how to ask specific questions and find the let's say the ranges where the price is too low, the price is fair, the price is expensive, or the price is let's say it's so expensive that it's almost yeah, that the customer is not willing in any case is to pay it. Yeah. So this is where we are currently working on. Yeah. So we're doing a lot of research. We initiated a little experiment after the research. And this is like, we changed the pricing page, we cleared that up, we validated it, that it's clear enough that you understand it. And then we tested the price elasticity for the basic plan. So we want to see how can we go up and see if we still have the same customer adoption, new customer adoption rate. The result is the pricing page is clearer. We still have the same rate, and yeah, the MRR was also not harmed, which is a good sign. And now our next step is that we want to validate the value metrics of our product, where we're doing further customer interviews. This is where we're currently at. And we are testing also in these interviews if they are willing to upgrade their account with certain elements from the product, which are assumed as the value, or where you can scale with the usage. And this is where we're currently at. So in the slides I'm putting on my website, you can also find then some links to the resources which I used, and there is also this very, very cool educational video from Ulrich. So I highly suggest that you listen to that. Yes, he's a B2B SaaS pricing expert. But to share with you what are the learnings, because here I don't have a wonderful end result for you and tell you, our revenue scaled 300 times. We are not there. We will still work on that, but it is a very satisfying feeling that you're constantly working on your pricing. Every 2 months, we are starting a new pricing experiment. I will share with you in a moment why. And often I'm sharing, are there any secret growth hacks for that? And today I have to say there are none from my perspective. I'm happy if you have some, if you share it with our audience and me, but so far I have none. So very quickly about the learning so far. Pricing is hard. Yeah, pricing is a labyrinth. It's so unclear what you should tackle, that what changes your MRR, what changes your revenue, what changes your customer base. It's super complex, and it's always combined with the link to the fear that you might harm your existing business. I can only suggest to do user research and to talk to your customers and potential customers. Was always a source of knowledge, a source of understanding and learning, and we are constantly doing that. I think that there are, as I said, there might be some main approaches so far which can work for which you can adopt if you at the start. But I think if you're already some years into your business, there are no specific approaches you can just implement, and then your revenue or your customer base grows. I think everything is very unique for your company, and that you have to figure out what works, what not. What is the value metric for your company? What features should you put into specific plans or not? Should you remove them at all? And so on and so forth. And for us, pricing changes need at least 2 months to have a certain reaction. This is also due to our free trial, so 15 days free trial. And people who are already in this plan, we keep them, so we don't change existing customers to our existing free trials. People are trying out our product. When they switch in a pricing experiment, they stay, let's say, in the old audience, in the old experimentation group. So for us, every change there takes at least 2 months to see results and changes. From currently, let's say our successes here are that we could double the new customer rate per month, which was nice. It weakened a little bit the MRR growth, but this is what we currently steering back and changing back. And we adopted to a constant experimentation culture and run now experiments every 2 months. And this will hopefully lead us to new knowledge, and I'm happy to share it with you. So what I would ask you today is, what is your epiphany when it comes to pricing, or what are your learnings? What are your thoughts? And I would be very happy if you share them with me and our audience here. As always, I want to quickly remind you that you and your business can grow with the magic power of feedback. So don't forget to sometimes ask others, some peers, what they think about your behaviors and your actions, how they see you, and do the same for your company. Ask for feedback. This will unlock wonders, and you will experience the magic power of feedback. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast episode of the GroWTF podcast. I would be very happy to hear some feedback. If you have some, if you have some ideas, please share it with me, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.